So I'm not really sure at what point you're going to see all this. But in answer to everyone asking about the dash, well, this is kind of what's happening. As you can see, there's not much left of the dash, and in fact there's a little bit more at the back there just to trim up, just to follow that contour line. It's going to look quite smart, I hope, when it's finished. I mean, to be totally honest, it's a mess in there, and as much as I want it to be as light as possible, it's a freaking mess. So I didn't want that to stay permanent, and cutting the dash way down, I reckon that's about 1.5 kilos there, plus obviously the gauges, and it's going to be flocked. So obviously it will look a bit better than this. So we're going to put a piece in here that'll hold some gauges and the heater controls, and we'll put a piece in this side that will vent out just for the left side of the windscreen. So we retain the windscreen demister section, which obviously is really, really useful. We'll retain this bit, maybe have another pod here, and then obviously just your main gauges in the middle, and then just a fuse box just sat underneath here, so it's nice and easy to access. So what we're doing at the moment, just to make it easier, it does lose a lot of weight actually, but because I'm going to flock it, flocking this stuff's really not easy. Well, first of all, it's flexible, it's a material, and a flock goes rigid, so it goes flaky when it moves or in the heat. Plus it always blows along here. I notice a lot of 306s have that. So we're just heating it up, peeling it back to this, and then we'll shape our pieces of acrylic ready, gauges in position, and then we'll flock it. That's the idea. Also go-ins on are our brakes, replacement brakes, nothing bigger. To be totally, at the end of the day, I want to keep 15-inch wheels, the light wheels I've got coming. I'm going to pick them up Monday. But these are just the GTI calipers, 57mm. But as you can see, they're looking rather dandy. They weren't when I got them. If you'd seen the rust removal guide, then these were part of that. They were absolutely skanky when I got them. The sliders still need a little bit of cleaning up, but I wanted to get the paint on and nice and dry and hard. So we clean them up using some electrolysis, and that's a couple of coats of hammerite. Just basic hammerite, goes rock hard. And then we're going to put, so we've got some new Brembo discs and some, well, we've got one pair of Mintex 1144s and some Ferodo DS 2500s. So plenty of decent pads. And bear in mind it's a lot lighter. With those decent pads at the front, with some decent tyres, I'm not going to need anything like Brembo's 6 pots, 25 pots, just for bragging rights. These will do the job just nicely, and they're a lot lighter than a massive, huge caliper. So that's the things going on right now. I'll update later. That's all stripped down. Right mess that was. All manner of tools being used to strip that off. You kind of can still see there's like a mottled effect. That's not actually like a paint. Here I've just managed to rub through a little bit more. Actually residue of glue, so we'll have to sand that right down just to make sure there's a nice even surface. The flock covers up a lot of imperfections, to be honest, but we'll just have to sand that down a bit. Right, hi peeps, you've joined me inside. I'm on to dash building stage now. Some of the bits I want to be getting on with, like the turbo, but we're waiting for some parts. So this is nearly ready, needs a bit of prep work for flocking, but should come to later. But basically I want the Arduino or Arduino, depending on how you say it, screen here, and then 4 pods, which will be oil and water temperature, and then exhaust gas temperature, and there's a 4th one, oil pressure. There will be one for exhaust manifold pressure as well. Not sure I'm going to put that yet. And then I'll have a boost over here probably, which will just be permanent there. But we might switch that for manifold pressure. Once you set your boost up, you set your boost up. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to use just some perspex. I've only chosen black just for the ease of flocking later on. A little one for there and a couple of sheets here in case I get it wrong. Simple way I've worked that out is I've used some old, well these were what were before, which will be sold on if anyone wants them. Flock setup, the original setup. Reverse engineered them using some CAD, some cardboard aided design. And then we've got a piece to go in there, which is slightly smaller. I'm going to make sure of that, because obviously once you've cut it and then flocked it, it gives a little bit more. And the same with the vent, piece of cardboard, about the same size. Then we'll work around that, cut that out. And then I got a bunch of these pods real cheap from HK. and we'll just chop the backs off them, chop that off, and then we'll put them through the pods, the bits of plastic we've cut out, and then we'll chemical metal them in or something. I think you can use some pipework as well of some sort, but these were so cheap, being the right size, etc. Job done. We could of course just bolt them on, but I want a bit of a tidier setup, and I want them all to be able to be removed really easily, so it'll just be a couple of screws I expect going through that panel, one at the top, a couple on the sides, and then if I need to move that panel out of the way for any reason, it's really simple and accessible. That's the beauty of this thing. You notice in the car, like fuels box will be just here, hopefully. So if anything goes wrong, you can work on it very quickly, which as I'm building it, it's likely something to go wrong, isn't it? So there we go. So we'll get these bits cut out. See where we're at. So there we have it. Obviously it's straight and the dash isn't, so that'll be warmed and curved later. I'm in two minds whether to curve it first and then cut the holes. I have a feeling it's going to be easy to cut the holes and then trim a little bit if necessary once we've curved it. The same with this one. It looks flat, but actually, if you can just see, it's not. So that'll need a bit of curvature that way. But first we'll cut the hole again. So the way we'll do that, we'll just line up where we want them, make a centre mark, cut a hole with a drill, and then use a hole cutter of a suitable size to cut the holes for those. And then we'll get the screen from the Arduino and mark up a space for that as well, and then we can cut holes in that. And then I think we'll bend it, and then any necessary trimming we can do afterwards, because trying to cut the holes on a curved surface is going to be a bit of a pig. So that's the next step. Wow, so what we nearly forgot, of course, was heater controls, which this one may end up turning into a gauge at the end. That is one of my ideas. And for that reason, I'm making all the holes gauge pod size. If you've seen the inside of the car, you'll understand why I don't really need direction. But temperature, obviously, and fan, important. So we went back to the old CAD design, got a template for that, and worked it onto the main piece. And then we did, and you can see lots of little lines going on in there. Simple mark on that one, obviously, to get 3 holes for the controls, 3 holes for the next 3 gauges, gauge at the top right, and then our Arduino screen. Looks great, doesn't it? Hopefully it should look a lot better when it actually's got stuff in it. It's curved, it's flocked, it's in there. I'm a bit dubious whether I've cut it absolutely perfect or slightly too small, because once the flock goes onto this and onto here, it does basically reduce the size you've got. So it's just marginally too small by about 0.5 millimetre all around, but that should be just right once it's flocked. Right, so there we go. That was obviously the easy one. That will go in there. However, it does need a bit of curve, but that is the easy part. It's almost not worth heating up, but we'll give it a go just to make it sit a little bit sweeter in position. And then just 3 screws, and we'll put some little clips in behind to screw it in with. That'll hold that. And then this one finally got it done with lots of little fettling, especially for that one to get a nice neat fit. So we'll have heater controls in the bottom, and then we'll have 3 pods. So that's smoothed it off, pretty much ready for flocking. The only thing obviously now is that that's flat and the dash isn't. So I did have a couple of options. I thought I'll keep it straight, but if I'm going to this extent, I might as well get it curved. So I'm going to have to just heat it up very gently now and start curving it to the shape of the dash. Never done that before. Probably never do it again. So as with all custom parts, they take absolutely freaking forever. We've got the dash trimmed in all the right places and all the right amounts. We finally got our side pod done. Unfortunately I had to make a little repair, because it was the last thing I did, that hole. The last thing, and it just cracked, so made a little repair. That should dry before we flock, and that should look fine. So that's in there, that's the pod at the right angle hopefully, a couple of little holes just to let the hot air through. I don't want it cooking the gauge from behind. And then we just glued in a couple of little brackets so that the pod can screw in nice and easy. And then here we've got 4 pods and gap, and at the bottom the heater controls. and then there's just 2 holes with some catches behind which will screw on nicely, and that should hold in there. There, like that. So that's kind of how it's going to look, which looks pretty cool. All needs flocking now, obviously, so we've rubbed down, and this is just drying now, rubbed down the what is this, dashboard, that's the one, and then we made this what looks like an absolute mess, but it took me absolutely forever. Basically an end piece that's going to sit in like that, and it will screw on, and basically it goes around the heater vent, which is why there's those big dents in it, which you've heated and dented, and then a little slot there to let some hot air out and onto the screen on the the near side, I should say. So that'll get flocked too. So all this will get flocked. The flocking room or paint room that I've sort of set up in the attic is just warming up. We'll just dust all these off again, and then get them flocked hopefully, and then put it together. Put all the gauges in, wire it all up. Easy. Right, take a seat, and you can have a quick look at our prep work. There's not much to say really, after just showing you downstairs everything. I'm just going to give it a wipe over with brake and clutch cleaner. It'll just take any grease or wax off that I haven't yet got off. It's all ready basically, and then we'll coat it with the glue after we've mixed it, and very carefully using digital scales, and then attach a wire for our static applicator. Applies a charge to the flock. Flock goes into the glue and kind of is drawn in by the static and all stands up, gives it that fluffy effect. Hopefully it will look pretty cool. So we'll do some flocking and report back. So there we go. It is now flocked pretty successfully. It didn't come up great on this dash actually. I rubbed it down. Obviously we'd stripped it off the kind of flexible vinyl on it. I reckon it would have adhered better because it was so porous that the glue just dried so quickly. There wasn't much glue left, so it hasn't come out very even, which you can probably see, unfortunately. But on face value, it looks pretty cool, and it will do the job of helping deflect the sunlight. I'm really chuffed with the gauges, though. They've come out pretty well. This is basically defunct, but hopefully we'll get an EMP gauge in there at some point, which is why I've kept all the holes the same size, and this will get trimmed off at the bottom. There's a little bit more cowling to come in, and our boost gauge, and this is for our fans. So I'm going to have another one there, probably just for the Arduino system. I expect that's all we'll need. So there we go, lit up. Oil temperature, oil pressure, water temperature, exhaust temperature, Arduino system, and boost. And that's how it looks from the driving position. So everything's kind of pointing at you, which is pretty good. Not perfect angles, but I'm pretty chuffed with that. And then for the other side, I've got that little kind of backing plate or side plate in there just to tidy up that end, basically. So that's basically it. The only issue we've got at the moment is for some reason fans aren't working, but we'll come to that. So it's hopefully going to be a minor issue. So next job, which is probably not tomorrow, is replace the glass windows. What with? With plastic. Lexan proper plastic, not just like Perspex crackable plastics, proper plastic. So we've also got a window winder. Thank you very much, David Beckett. Anyone knows him, they know he's a bit of a lad, and he is legend. So let's go and have a glass of wine, cup of tea, whatever's going, and finish that turbo. You're not coming with me.